All right, one more on adding before we go to subtracting. So this is going to be about using partial sums to add decimals. Yet another strategy. So we talked about the decimal grids. Now we have partial sums. I'm also going to show you sort of the traditional algorithm way of doing it. And then you'll be able to choose what makes the most sense for you. So how can you determine the total cost of the helicopter and the robot? What would I need to do? Ding, 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 add them together. So we could represent it with an equation. 17 and 31/100 plus 12 and 45/100 equals the total cost. Just thinking about combining them together is adding. So using partial sums. Partial sums looks a little bit different than in whole numbers, because usually in whole numbers, it's the same idea. We're adding the tens, we're adding the hundreds, we're adding the ones. But with decimals, we just have to include those places. So there's two different ways we can split them up. So the first one is to decompose them by place. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. So your strategy that you're writing on your notes, we can decompose the numbers so you can use partial sums is the next blank. Partial meaning like part, sum, the total when we add. So it's like we're just adding parts at a time instead of the whole numbers. So again, on your notes, another strategy, decompose the numbers so you can use partial sums. Okay? So now the steps that we are actually using for that. The first one is to decompose using place value. In other words, we are writing them in expanded form. So that's your new notes. Write the numbers in expanded form. So each place, the 10, the 7, the 3/10, the 100th. And the next one, the 10, the 2 ones, the 4/10, and the 500ths. So you're writing them place by place in expanded form. And then we add each place together. So we'd combine the 10s to get 20. Just gonna switch colors. It gets confused anyway. You'll just have to figure it out. The 7 ones and the 2 ones to get the 9 ones. The 3/10 plus the 4/10 to get 7/10. And then the 100th plus the 500th to get 600ths. Okay, so you're just splitting them up into places, adding those together, and then you can reassemble the number. So again, write the numbers in expanded form, then add each place is what you can put in your notes. Add each place. Then we would just combine those together. So then we'd see 29/76. So 29 and 76/100ths. Now another way we can decompose those two numbers, which will be number 3 on your notes, is you can decompose them into whole numbers and decimals. So it's a little less splitting apart. It's just doing the two parts, the whole numbers and the decimals. Whole numbers, you've been adding for years. Decimals, we've talked about different strategies with the decimal grids and then making sure we're adding the 10ths to 10ths, 100ths to 100ths. So if we decompose them into whole numbers and decimals, well, we would have 17, 31/100ths, 12, 45/100ths. So remember, there's different ways to break numbers apart. And then for number 4, similarly, add each place, or you could say add the whole numbers and add the decimals. You're adding each part. Maybe say each part. So then if I add 17 and 12, I'm going to get 29. 31/100ths, 45/100ths, I'm going to get 76, which we saw. So then we get 29 and 76/100ths. So again, we're adding each part together. I'll show you the other strategy on one of the practices. So either way, we see that the sum is 29 76/100. So then the total cost, $29.76. So either way, we can decompose by place value. We can decompose into whole numbers and decimals. I'll actually go ahead and show you right now. If I take and I write my number, I can just write the other one underneath as long as I make sure that I line up the decimals. Because I want to make sure I'm adding each place with its same place. Kind of like when I decomposed, I made sure to add the 3/10 to the 4/10. I need to make sure those are stacked on top of each other. Because if we get to carrying and you decompose and then suddenly you have to carry, suddenly it gets a little confusing. So 6, 7, bring down my decimal, 9 and 2. Sort of the more traditional way. I'll show you one with carrying just so you can see what that looks like. Again, pick the strategy that works best for you. If you like to do it in an expanded form and do partial sums, the whole numbers and the decimal separate, or just line them up traditionally. All right, what is the sum? 22 and 57/100 plus 8 and 4/10. Go ahead and choose. All right, hopefully you saw that when we do the 2 plus 8, I get 10. 5/10 plus 4/10 is 9/10. And I just have 7/100 with nothing to go with it. So I'd have 10 and 97/100. Right? If ever you're like, I don't know where she got that, let me know. All right. What is the sum? Use partial sums to solve. 6 and 9/10 plus 31/100. All right, hopefully you saw, I just have the 6 wholes right here. Now I have the 9/10 and the 3/10. Okay, 9/10 and 3/10 is 12/10. Remember, 12/10 I'm going to carry over into my next grid because 10/10 is a whole. So that's actually 1 and 2/10. And then I have 1/100. So this 6 and this 1 need to get put together into 7. That's why sometimes using partial sums I think is confusing. Because instead, if I just lined them up, again, making sure my tenths are with my tenths, my decimals are on top of each other, okay? Remember, I can add a 0 to make them the same length. 0 plus 1 is 1. 9 plus 3 is 12. I write the 2, I carry the 1 just like I normally would in adding. 1 plus 6 is 7. Bring my decimal down. So this is when if I use partial sums, I might like 12/10. 0.12? Well, no, that's not right. So doing this way can just make it more simple when I'm adding them together. All right. All right, go ahead and use one of your strategies to add those together. All right, if I add and I see, okay, maybe I did 35 plus 64. Those are the ones, I split them up into whole numbers and decimals. Well, that's 99. And then if I have 12/100 plus 73/100, that's a funny little 2 right there. 5, 8, 85/100. So then I know I can put my whole number 99 with my 85/100. I get 99 and 85/100. All right. So again, different ways to solve it. I'm going to skip down to number 6. Go ahead and use one of your strategies to solve there. All right. Hopefully we're seeing how it's not that much different than regular addition. I just have to make sure I'm adding the places to themselves. Just like I wouldn't add 200 to 20 and get 4 of something because they're in different places, the hundreds versus the tens. So 5, 7 plus 9 is 16. Say, so 6/10 plus then that 1 whole. Think back to your grids. If you want to turn back and use the grid to visualize, that's fine. but do it. If you're not sure why, use those grids. All right, one last one. Matisse earns $22.50 shoveling snow. Later, he finds 82 cents in his backpack. How much money does he have now? Well, earned this much, found more money, so we need to add them together. Go ahead and pick. All right, $22.50 plus 82 cents, 213 carry. You'll notice what method I prefer. I think it's more efficient. And if we understand why we're adding the places to the places, it can still show good understanding. But it is obviously faster than writing it in expanded form. If you still like breaking it apart, decomposing it, that's fine. But this is my preferred strategy. So find one that works for you. Good luck.